All right, I'd like to thank everybody for being patient. We had some technical difficulties that we were able to get solved, so that's the reason for our delay. I hereby call this Boardman City Council meeting to order, January 2nd, 2024. Happy New Year to everybody, and we'll stand and do the flag salute. Pledge allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll do, no need for a roll call because our two city council members are on Zoom. That would be Mrs. Brenda Prophet and Mrs. Christina Cuevas. So we have a full council today. I'd like to get on record that Ethan Salata is on shift for duty. And if so-called he gets an emergency call, he will just leave and he will be excused to go and do that. So I just want to let everybody know that if that so happens, that's what will happen. So we're going to move right to the approval of the minutes, December 2023 regular meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of December 5th, 2020.
I second.
I have a motion, a second. Is there any discussion anybody would like to have about the minutes? Having hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And, all right, there's an aye there. How about,
Aye.
Aye, okay. So we have all ayes and no nays. All right, so we're gonna move on to our formal proceedings. Our public hearing, Boardman Development Code amendments to section 3.4.000.b. So here's the way it's gonna go. We're gonna have an opening of the public hearing. The public hearing on amendment A-BDC-23-001 is called to order. City of Boardman is the applicant. The request is to amend chapter 3.4, Public Facilities Standard Section 3.4.000. Purpose and applicability of the Boardman Development Code, BDC, to allow the city to defer construction of certain improvements until such time as the adjacent property develops. Criteria for approval are found at the BDC Chapter 4.7 Land Use District Map and Text Amendments. It is being processed as a Type 4 decision with the final hearing before the City Council. Conduct of the hearing. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. We will have a staff report. Then there will be public testimony in the following order. Testimony in support of the amendments, testimony opposing the amendments, any neutral testimony, and then finally we'll have a staff response, if any, to public testimony. Then we will close the public testimony. After the record is closed for testimony, no other testimony will be heard from anyone unless the City Council has a specific question. The City Council may ask questions of staff, after which the City Council will discuss the matter. The City Council may make a final decision tonight, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain in the future. If the matter is continued, this will be the only notice of that time and date you will receive. Testimony. If you wish to speak, please fill out a testimony form and submit it to the city clerk. I will recognize those people wishing to speak. Any questions should be addressed through me. Please state both your name and address for the record. when you come to the podium as the hearing is being recorded. Please keep testimony concise and to the point. Testimony should be on the action under consideration. Criteria. The criteria that apply to this decision are listed in the staff report. Testimony should be directed at those criteria or other criteria that you think might apply. Disclosure. Do any members of the city council have any conflicts of interest they need to disclose? Please indicate the nature of the conflict of interest and whether you intend to participate in the hearing. Do I have anybody that has a conflict of interest that they need to declare? Brenda and Christina, do you have any conflict or interest you need to declare?
No.
Same with you, Brenda. I saw you shake your
No.
head, but did you say no?
No, I have no conflict.
Hey, thank you. Record. Based on the staff report, we need to add several documents to the record. Can I have a motion to do so? I'm gonna need to have a motion because we have some documents that need to be added to the record.
I move to add to the record the items described by staff in the staff report and the letter received today from Wendy Kellington representing Jonathan Holman.
So I have a motion. I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions about what's being added? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Correspondence. Is there additional correspondence beyond those items included in the staff report?
No, you've included them all. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the staff report. Planning official Carla McLean will now present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Kiefer. So the decision before you tonight should be straightforward, but the waters of the action before you are being muddy. I'm going to attempt to clarify what the decision is that is before you, what is pertinent to that decision, and provide some explanation of the documents that are being placed into the record. Before I get to all of that, I do think it is important for you to know that there have been 5 separate LUPA appeals regarding the UEC power lines and the permits to build the loop road south of the interstate. And Jonathan Tallman is currently suing the city in circuit court. Much of that activity began before I started with Boardman nearly 2 years ago, with all of it focused on activity in the area south of the Port of Morrow Interstate 84 interchange. Specifically, the LUBA appeals address the construction contract, which has been transferred to circuit court and is the identified lawsuit. The UEC power line, which the city and UEC prevailed on, and the zoning permit issued to build the loop roads east of Laurel Lane, which was remanded to the city. So what exactly is the decision before you and what is pertinent to that decision? It's a legislative decision to approve changes to the Boardman Development Code to allow the city to defer improvements related to a public improvement project until development occurs on the adjacent property or properties. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on December 20th, just last year, to consider this change and recommends that the City Council adopt the change on a 5-to-1 vote. The pertinent documents to this change are the proposed changes attached to the memorandum that was sent to each of you last Wednesday, December 27th, as well as the staff report prepared for the Planning Commission public hearing. The record includes actually now 2 letters from Kellington Law Group. One was attached to the Planning Commission staff report, and the other one is the letter you received today. Those letters get into the issues related to the LUBA decision that remanded an earlier permit that the city issued for construction of the loop road. And that decision prompted the proposed change to the Boardman Development Code, but the change applies to any similar project through the city, not just the loop road. So to be clear, that proposed change could be applicable to any public improvement project, whether it be at the loop roads, Front Avenue, it could apply anywhere. To better explain the changes to the Boardman Development Code, I would have you look to the red line changes, or better yet, start with the original language to understand where we are and where we are proposing to go. The current language states, quoting, "Unless otherwise provided, the standard specifications for construction, reconstruction, or repair of transportation facilities, utilities, and other public improvements within the city shall occur in accordance with the standards of this chapter. No development may occur unless the public facilities related to development comply with the public facility requirements established in this chapter." The proposed language modifies this applicability statement by adding the following. Except that the city may defer compliance with one or more of the development standards for a public improvement project constructed by the city or other public agency if the city finds that the improvements required by the standards are likely to be provided by development of the adjacent property. So it's really important to note a couple of things about this change. It only allows public improvement projects that would be undertaken by the city or another public agency. It is not something that a developer could ask to utilize to defer amenities for their project. So for a subdivision for housing, we would not work to defer those. There are already development options in the development code to work with developers with subdivisions and how amenities and the infrastructure are in place. This is really specific to a public improvement, water, wastewater, pavement, those types of things. So again, the document submitted into the record by Mr. Tallman, and thank you for taking that motion and adding those records, just so that you better understand what he's requesting. The planning commission did add to the record both the certified record table of contents as well as the certified record in the subject LUBA case that has been remanded. There's a signed appeal for the decision for the loop road that was signed on July 1 of 2022. It's already part of the record that's identified in bullet item 2, or the second item I mentioned. The final loop road LUBA decision, that's what it was named, the document that's named, and it's named that on the website. That's not what the actual document is. It's the petition for review submitted to LUBA by Mr. Tallman's attorney in this matter. The January 10, 2012 staff report and attachments, that's the staff report that was completed in 2012 for the adoption of the currently in place Port Immortal IAMP. Also from 2012, he submitted your council meeting minutes from when that Port Immortal IAMP was adopted. He also submitted the actual Port Immortal IAMP. He also submitted 2 items related to a LUBA appeal that's not against the city. LUBA 2022-014 is a LUBA order, and it's in the matter of an appeal made by Mr. Tallman against Morrow County related to the access permit or lack thereof for the farmer's coffee shop. And then a response, apparently LUBA, the order was dismissing the appeal or setting it aside due to lack of documentation. And Mr. Tallman's attorney has asked for that to be continued. And again, that's against Morrow County and it does not impact the city of Boardman. So he's asked that these records or these documents be made part of the record. By law, we have to include that regardless of whether it is relevant. Accordingly, the record includes all of these documents, but the city council, you get to determine whether they are relevant to your decision-making tonight. Are these documents necessary or informative for you to make your decision? On the whole, staff believes they are not. In summary, in LUBA number 2022-062, LUBA agreed that the city development code requires that collector road be built to a certain width and the construction of sidewalks, streetlights, etc., simultaneous with construction of the road. The city's approach to addressing the LUBA decision starts with this proposed amendment to the Boardman Development Code, which will be followed by the necessary permit to authorize the road construction, which would also address the other items identified in the LUBA decision that are not specifically addressed in this action. So it's not that the city's not addressing the LUBA remand, we're doing it in stages, this being the first stage. amending the code to allow us to defer those, improvements that we didn't do. I guess the only other thing I would really add is that, I think this action, this change to the development code really is in line with the policy decisions that were made by the council at the time that the appeals were done. Now, for some of you, that may have been before your term in office. But the council at that point in time made some clear policy decisions related to that appeal. And that's what was then appealed further to LUBA and has come back to us on remand. So we're really, I think, trying to stay consistent with the policy decisions that were made in that original permitting sequence of a type 2 decision issued by the planning official, an appeal to the planning commission, appeal to the city council, and then an appeal to the to LUBA. So I think, again, for those of you that were either on the city council, the planning commission, or serving in another role, are aware of what that history was. And some of you, you're new to this. And so if you have any questions about that, I will try to answer them. But I think the important thing is that what we're doing now, we're trying to be consistent with those policy determinations that were made at that point in time. So unless there's any questions, I think that would conclude what I have to say this evening. Our land use attorney is on Zoom. And at least for the planning commission, he deferred any additional comments for the rebuttal. So I'm just going to ask, Chris, is there anything you would add at this point in time?
Thank you, Carla. It's a very good report. The only thing I would add is that it's not just about, this isn't just about addressing a remand from LUBA on a single permit for a roadway. This is about implementing the interchange access management plan for the Port of Morrow interchange. And the city has been implementing this a piece at a time since it was adopted in 2013. What this code provision allows you to do in that area for those projects is implement them sequentially over time. What has been argued and continues to be argued by Mr. Tallman and his attorneys is that the city can't put in a roadway that's called for on the management plan without simultaneously putting in all the streetlights and sidewalks and everything else. We're trying to implement the management plan sequentially over time in a way that protects the taxpayers. There is no reason to put sidewalks and streetlights out there now because most of the properties there on Devon Loop and Yates Lane are undeveloped. And when they do develop, the developer will need to put in the sidewalks and streetlights and so on. And in that way, we will achieve full compliance with the interchange access management plan over time in a way that protects the taxpayers. We will build the roadway, but the developers have to put in the sidewalks and streetlights and so on. The other thing to keep in mind about that point is that if the city did go ahead and bite the bullet and spend money on streetlights, even though there are entire neighborhoods in the city that don't have streetlights, if we put streetlights out there, there's a very good chance when the property is developed, they would have to be taken back out again and moved or maybe not replaced. Sidewalks would get cracked and broken. It makes no sense to put the sidewalks and street trees and so on on Devon Loop at this point. Better to wait for the development to occur, then the sidewalks and street trees could be put in the right place and paid for by the private sector, not the taxpayer. So we are sequentially implementing the interchange access management plan, and this allows us to do it in a financially prudent way. That's the only thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, are there any other questions at this time? All right, so we'll go to the public testimony portion of this hearing. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the code amendment? Does anyone wish to speak against this code amendment?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you can have the podium.
Right here, I did a public.
Excuse me, I know,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
gonna
I'm
just
sorry.
be formal, sorry.
You're right, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Jonathan Tallman, I'm the owner of this property. There was quite a few different things that I'm gonna miss about going into this. I put in the 2012 ordinance. The city of Boardman committed to doing this road the right way the first time. Not me, okay, the city did. I asked to work with people I said, how wide is the road gonna be? Okay, now, Mr. Keeper, we read when Barry Byler was alive, we met with Karen Pettigrew, you were right there, Karen was right here, okay, Barry was over here, Randy Baker was here. Fletcher Hobbs was here. You guys gave me an offer of $75,000. I said, how many acres is it? And it was 3.25 acres. But I said, let me see how wide the road is. I want to make sure that the road is done right the first time. I want to work with you. So when I came to do the numbers, it was actually about 4.25 acres, okay? Francis and Ed Glenn got $55,000 for 0.39 acres. I said, hey, I would like to get $55,000 an acre. You guys paid, you guys set the precedent right there, how much it is for commercial property. I would like that. But what I did is I gave you guys a number back that Melissa Lindsay gave to you. At that time, $150,000 for about 4.25 acres. I still want to work with everybody involved. Right here is tens of thousands of dollars that we've wasted on this lawyer company on Hammond LLP. All we have to do is pick up the phone and say, let's sit down and go over it. Let's go over the documentation. I would have gladly have put something in writing that day that we met if I would have seen how wide the road was, but it was never there. None of those details were there. Where it stems from is this whole thing stems from is the documentation of this process, okay? I want it done the first time, all right? I won the Luba case. The Luba case, I did prevail in it, saying, hey, we need to get this done. It needs to be done. This is just built for me. That's all this is. If you don't pass this, the city has to go in and get this done correctly. I am willing to work with the city to get that done correctly, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, because we can go down this rabbit hole of what this means. I would prefer to sit down and talk to you guys about this. Every little rebuttal that they have, okay, I can go over with it line by line by line and show you with documentation what I'm saying. I'm not being unreasonable. This all happens because it's being pushed through and it's being rammed through. Why can't we work together? Please, I just say that repeatedly. The transparency that we have not gotten by ramming this through, okay, and just saying, hey, we need to push it through. At that meeting with the county meeting, Mr. Mayor, you were bragging about how the city has a budget of $75 million and the Hermiston has a $95 million budget. You said that we have all this money. Let's put it to use. I know that when it comes to this meeting later on, when we have the BCDA, all the money that you guys have from the BCDA, that's from CREZ funds, okay? That, I'm asking for this to be used in the private sector. I can develop this property, okay, by a business owner, not a government entity. Please, I ask that we work together. We ask that we have questions to get this solved. I think this is sad. What can we do to work together instead of ramming it down your throat and changing the code that has only directly to do to me? Now, I want to go through with what my lawyer said, because I'll tell you right now, I don't think you guys have read all the pages and the documents that are in front of you. Line by line to back up everything that I'm saying, and it's just not me talking. Okay, the proposal purports to allow the city order to defer required roadway improvements anywhere in the city forever on a likely that the adjacent property development will be required improvements. The city installed a whole substandard loop road. It has no bike lanes, no landscaping. It dooms private development and stagnation because the city code will require that any private development to be denied unless the required infrastructure is in place, unless the requirement is waived under the unconscionable conditions of Dolan versus the city of Tiger. There's examples here. Please read what my lawyer said, okay? It's about, how many pages is it?
About 9 pages.
It's about 9 pages. It goes and it lists specific things in there that cite what I'm talking about, okay? I promise you, I will be able to develop this property faster than what you guys can do over here at the BCDA. When you have government that's in charge of stuff, we see waste all the time. Let's work together and get this done. I don't see why we can't do that right now. And if you guys pass this, you guys are just showing that you are throwing aside litigation and court orders with the cases that I have won. The city hasn't won that. You guys appealed it. You listened to Cream the first 2 times, listened to him, and now we're still in the same mess. I could go and I could do this thing again again to Luba. Why would we want to do that? Why would we want to do that? I think that is so sad. Why can't we just sit down and say, even though I may not like you, or vice versa, why can't we find a way that works together? Brandon, do you want to do that? I really want to know, all right? I really want to know if you want to do that. I welcome the opportunity to work with you, but you know what? Throwing this to the wayside and doing what we're doing, the red tape in here, is really sad and sets a precedent that we're gonna bully our way through things. And just wait, the precedent that this sets, okay, on other business owners, when there's loop roads over here on exit 164, does that mean that you guys have to pay for that as business owners in here? Is that how it's gonna be done? That precedent's gonna be set, that it's up to the private developer. Well, if the city's pushing it, okay, what can of worms does that open up for other properties that are in here? That could be an assessment on your guys' properties and businesses to get those things done. Mine's untapped resources there. It's the lay of the land. We can get it done right the first time. I welcome the opportunity to work with you guys.
Mr. Tillman, I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
You said Yates Lane and Devon Loop is owned by you,
No, I own the opposite side.
but this appeal is for Devon Loop and Yates Lane, correct?
Okay, but this has to do, because we could have got it done that first time. And this amendment has everything to do with it, because what you match on one side, you match on the other.
Oh, correct.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that you do not own Devon
No.
property. Okay, that
But
was all.
I wanted to make sure that if I would have agreed to it, my side would have had to match that when it wasn't done properly. My lawyer said, take this and appeal it, because both sides have to match as far as the loop roads. That's why I did it. Because then the precedent would have been set. What was done on one side, you have to let the other side be done the same way.
Well, it actually precedents all roads in the city of Boardman.
Yeah, well, yeah, you.
That's what this is about.
Yes, but in
And
a
that's-
sense, you guys are saying, well, because we're the city, we don't have to do it, because we don't want to do it, even though you committed in that 2011
I am.
ordinance, that you guys were gonna do it right the first time. Does that make sense?
Yes, I just had to clarify that you do not own the property on Devon.
Yeah,
That's all.
but I wanted to make sure why I did that side for the other side.
Yes, and that was made very clear in the
Okay.
presentation of the staff report. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have neutral testimony? Having hearing none, the public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Staff response to the testimony. Does staff need to respond to any questions or issue raised by the testimony?
Chris, I'll defer to you initially.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. 3 things that I just want to touch on very briefly. There were 5 different LUBA appeals. Mr. Tallman filed 4 of them. Only 1 of them was remanded. The other 3 were dismissed. So the city prevailed in those. There was only 1 that was remanded, just to set the record straight on that. Although he is currently also suing the city in circuit court, challenging the construction contract the city issued to build Yates Lane and Devon Loop. So that's the status of the litigation. The notion that the loop has to be the same on both sides, as I believe the statement was, what is built on one side has to be matched on the other side. There's no legal authority for that. They do not have to match. There might very well be good reasons why they don't. But it does point out the basis for the opposition to this amendment. When a developer develops adjacent to this road, the developer will have to put in the sidewalks, streetlights, and so on, and the taxpayers do not. So if you have to put in the sidewalks and street trees and everything on one side. Mr. Tallman's testimony is you have to do that on his side too, so that he doesn't have to, thereby shifting a cost that normally would be borne by the developer onto the public. What we're trying to do is split the cost between the public and the private sector, with the public building the roadway and the private sector picking up the amenities, the sidewalks, street trees, and so on. And in that way achieve compliance with the IAMP and other city projects around the city. Mr. Tallman's purpose here is to shift costs that should be borne by him as the developer onto the public. And then that final point I think I briefly referred to, and that is this code amendment does apply citywide. So anytime there's a city project or potentially a county project in the city to build a road, you can look at it, and if you conclude the adjacent development of the adjacent property will require the construction of the streetlights and so on, the bike lanes and landscaping, you can defer those until that property develops. Otherwise, the city can always put them in itself. But it is a code amendment that applies citywide, not just to this one area, the Port of Morrow interchange. Thank you. That's all I have unless anybody has questions.
So that leads me right up to the next part. Is there any discussion or questions by the city council?
I do not have any. Thank you.
How about Christina? Do you have any questions? Having hearing that, I'd say that would probably be, she has no questions. All right, so we're at the part for motion and decision. Is there a motion? And we have sample motions here to choose from.
So any of these are sufficient?
Excuse me, what?
Any of these are sufficient to say?
Those are our choices.
Those are our choices?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
To help guide you in the
Mhm.
direct wording through the motion.
Yeah, I move to approve amendment A-BDC 23-001 as presented to the city council and direct staff to prepare the necessary adoption documents for action by the city council at the February meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion you'd like to have over this? Having hearing none, we'll go to a roll call. Please.
Counselor Prophet?
Yes.
Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes.
Counselor Cuevas?
yes,
Counselor Pettigrew?
Yes.
Counselor Rockwell?
Yes.
Counselor Salata?
Yes.
Mayor Kiefer?
Yes. So the motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We will have those documents prepared for you and have them noticed for the public, and plenty of time for simplest and easiest adoption in Pittsburgh. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Financial report, month ending October 2023.
For the month ending October 31st, 2023, one of the biggest ones that I want you to notice is in the general fund, received that month was over 2 million. We did receive 1 million from just 3 in one of their disbursements, and which they refer to the community development contributions. And so the city was a recipient of 1 million. We also did receive some franchise fees that were a little late, but they came in October. For expenses, you can see our capital project fund, which is Fund 410. They're in the 1 millions. That's our
wastewater and our water system improvements. So those are moving along nicely. Some of these between October and now, are construction invoices. They've been pretty good about getting them to us monthly, but including the expansion of our city hall. But you'll notice that they kind of go off and on. The invoices haven't been as timely. Not that it's because their office staff isn't on it, but a lot of this also requires for our engineers to verify the work or for the architects to verify the work. And so, that involves sometimes a little bit more time depending on the phase that they're in. So just because one seems lower in, these months, don't think that the project has slowed down. It's just the timing of when we receive the invoice, we have to get the check out to them. But both projects are moving along, no big hiccups that we anticipate, being delayed.
Any questions about the budget for the month ending of October?
Okay, so you also have, the month ending November 30th, 2023. And I don't recall that I told you, last month, the Feds are trying to slow down the increase in interest rates. So if you can see both of the interest rates, you'll see that most of them remain the same those 2 months. We had only one account that moved to 5.10%. So they're still trying to hold off on interest rates spiking up, but we do anticipate seeing another increase this month of January. Just general information. And in November, we start receiving our property taxes. So our fund that we rely on the public's money between November and December is when we receive the bulk of it. And then we'll see another big deposit in the month of April for those who choose that third payment option. But that's what you see the increases in revenues in November. It's mostly our property taxes.
So that 600,000 is property taxes, is what you're saying?
The majority of it, not all of it.
And that's our first check?
Well, what the county does is, because they receive a lot of property taxes, they actually do about 3 or 4 deposits in the month of November, and then 2 or 3 in December. Just that they're not holding on to our money, so it's multiple deposits, but.
Well, that's a far cry from a couple million, is my
Yeah.
point. So December's should
Could be a lot more, yeah.
substantial increase.
Yeah, our last deposit in the month of December, November for property taxes was November 20th.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so,
they're due on the 15th, so.
yes. But I imagine that it takes them a few days to process everybody's and get all their deposits scheduled out, so.
So the other thing, the income from like all of the reserve funds, the income there is just interest on those, basically.
And most of those, yes, every now and then you'll see them get a little bit higher. So like in October, there were, it was higher than what we received in November. All our SDCs go directly into our reserve fund, so we have more SDCs collected in October.
I have a question. On this money that we have like in savings and checking, or does it work similar to just a regular individual that the amount of money they put in there, they can get more interest off of that? So for instance, if I put $1,000 in, I'm getting say 0.25% or whatever, but if I put in $2,000, I can get 0.5%. Is that the same?
No, we're set at it, just.
You're set at that, and
Yes.
so it's gonna be 5% or whatever the percentage rate is, and it'll never
Correct,
change.
and I list them as of the last day of the month.
Mhm.
When the interest rates were really spiking up, they were changing 2-3
Yeah.
times a month. So
Mhm.
I'm just listing what it was on the last day of the month.
And I believe you made a comment last meeting, you said that we're actually doing fairly well in the interest rates compared to the past. So-
Oh, yes.
So it's good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I think if I recall, we got down to like
I was
0.25%.
gonna say,
At one
the
point
interest
we
rates were
said.
pretty bad.
Any other questions concerning November? Okay, moving on. We'll go to the public comment portion. Is there anyone here who wishes to, have public comment? His is in the prearranged, right? So you're almost there.
Okay.
Almost there. Okay, having hearing none, we'll go, right, to our prearranged presentation. And I appreciate your patience. And just realize that that clock is wrong on the wall.
Oh, wow, okay.
It is not 8:45 or 8:47.
I promised my wife I'd be home by 9, so.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Matthew Jensen. I'm County Administrator for Marl County. Appreciate this opportunity to come down and share with the City Council for Boardman. I was invited, as you are well aware of, there's a lot of talk going on as the county's efforts to update the ambulance service area.
Any audience see that?
Is
Is
going
that
on.
being shared?
Yeah, I've got it on screen.
Okay.
And we did a presentation on the 20th of December, and we were asked to come and share this. This is the slideshow that we did. I'd like to kind of go through it quickly and answer any questions that the city council might have. And so first slide, just the introduction. Go to the, yes. So the main reason that we're doing this and looking to revise and implement a new area service, ambulance service area plan is because over the last 20 to 30 years, things have kind of gotten a little bit confusing as Marl County Health District was formed. There was some abdication of powers and responsibilities that should have stayed with the county court or the Board of Commissioners now. One of the things that points out is ORS 682 outlines that the county commission or the county court is solely responsible for determining ambulance service area plans for the county. And since at least 1998, that's the latest one I saw, that responsibility was in part or in whole transferred over to MCHD. And this included the advisory committee that makes suggestions on revisions and such, and on who can provide ambulance services. Now, by and large, for the last several decades, we've had a single provider. And for a long time, that was staffed by volunteer EMTs with ambulances provided by the county or by the Marl County Health District. As we've come in and we've seen this growth and we've seen demands and we've seen a change of staffing and change of services, in so much that we need to be able to make sure that as we review requests for providers, that there is a kind of a neutral third party or someone who's not knee deep into those services that take a look at that. That's not to disavow the professionalism of those people, but you can't have one of the providers determining if other providers are going to be coming into the market. That becomes a conflict. And so if we go to the next one, so what we are doing is we are still using the template by and large of the ASA that is in effect. We're taking several steps. These 4 points kind of boil it down. We're reestablishing the county as the authority over the SA. We're establishing an independent EMS, and actually we've just changed that since further input to ASA Advisory Committee to review the services. We're establishing 3 possible ambulance service areas. Now I say possible because we want to make sure this area service, ambulance service area plan is flexible for the future. And we do identify kind of the 3 different population areas. We have the northern one, which is kind of the Boardman area, northeast, which is Oregon, and then the South County areas. And if you put those in, their population is kind of evenly split between those 3. When I say possible, that's because this is just to open it up. We have not looked at any proposals at this point on servicing. We have received one from the health district. I know Boardman Fire Rescue District is also very interested in presenting one. But we have made no determination, and so a lot of talk on social media and around here, quite frankly, is way ahead of the park, and we have not made any decisions. And the board of commissioners have not made any determinations there. And quite frankly, we're not sure if it makes sense at this time, but we want to make sure it's available for the future, or if it makes sense now, that we can provide that. The other thing is we just update technical requirements, so instead of us specifying it in our ASA, it just references state and federal codes, so that as they update it, we stay up to date. So a little bit of bookkeeping kind of set up. So those are kind of, you say that and it sounds fairly simple. But it's a big haul. It's breaking with tradition. We've got small rural communities, so they've got their, vested interest in there, and we've got a lot of good people who've worked with the system. And I don't want to demean them and say, hey, we need to start from scratch. But the fact is, we have a setup where the county doesn't have direct administrative control over what the ambulance services providers can be and what should be happening. And we are looking to reassert that and make sure that the county is in the right, proper role to do that. Go ahead to the next item. You look at historically, what's been doing when we talk about the EMS or the ASA Advisory Committee. The Health District Board has appointed members. Generally, you want to have the county commission just do that. That's what's proposed. There's a heavy representation of health district employees on that board, so it kind of creates that conflict of why do I want to look at another provider if it's going to take away from my business. We're looking to do more of an independent group that will look at the overall performance rather than individual call response and that, which is what you see the third bullet point for historic is big. And it probably worked out quite well using that advisory committee to look and say, okay, EMT, paramedic, you could have done this better. If we take a step back, what we're proposing is to take the ASA advisory committee more or less to a 10,000 foot level viewpoint. We're seeing overall how the system's not working. We're not dealing with the peer-to-peer reviews. That will be taken care of by the providers themselves, and they can report up any issues to OHA or to us as necessary. So one of the things that you'll see is we're trying to, on the right side, propose, we want to set up the ASA and the ASA advisory committee to be able to reconcile issues between providers. And so if there's any conflict or anything that needs to be adjusted, that's the group that will hear it out in kind of neutral third party aspect, and then bring those corrections or amendments to the board of commissioners to implement. And like I said, that second last one that proposed is really, we want a third party to be able to come in and consider new providers. Again, this is not to say that we made a determination to go with those, but it has to be free, equitable, transparent on saying, okay, we have a provider who's interested, show us what you can do. That's a good impact, negative impact on the county, and we award or not award accordingly. Next slide. Where are we at in the process? This is one point where we've had an internal draft, development of the draft. We've had input from some interested parties on that. We're updating an initial draft and submitting it to review by OHA. Now, this is one thing I was just reading while I was waiting. One of the posts on social media saying, hey, you sent it in, that means you're set on this. It isn't really. This is something new. We're making an effort on it, and OHA has said, send it in, let us know what you're doing so we can get you up to speed. So when your final comes in, it's quicker. And so that's what we're doing. We have not made any determinations. This is not a final document. It is a draft. And while it does require another OHA review, we'll be able to take a bunch of their structural comments in place right now. And we don't have to wait for that later down on the pipe. We're just fine tuning and that from the public input process that we will have after we get this initial draft back. That draft was originally submitted. They sent back with some clarifications and wanted some exhibits included. we're looking to, push that out the end of this week or next week and get that to OHA so we can have that reviewed. And they've committed, right now, they've checked their schedule and they said they'll be able to review that in a quick manner. What that is, I'm not sure. They have up to 60 days, but we're hoping it's much less than that. So after we get that feedback from, and there is one issue that still needs to be determined, and that's in relation to the former depot area, how that gets cut up, and that's gonna be a discussion. But we don't wanna hold that up and get this initial in. We will post that, we will, send this to all the different municipalities and fire districts for their review, and we will have a public hearing and to get some final input on what is necessary and what any final tweaks we need to do before we send it into OHA for final certification and adoption. We'll have to advertise for ambulance providers once we get that, and we'll have a designation of initial ambulance providers. Next screen. So different ways, and this was more for the Board of Commissioners on how do we determine those initial providers. Quite frankly, the option on the left is they are the executive and legislative body of the county. They could just say, this is who's doing. But they all admit they are not trained and they don't have the experience on that. And so that's one of the problems. It's quick, it's easy, it becomes a very political issue, and they have the lack of experience. So they're not leaning towards that one. There's an option to pull from the ASA and use the new advisory committee to flesh that out. That committee, there's a little bit of issues with it because there are members from that committee from providers. And so we're kind of shortchanging our committee if we try to use that for the initial. The other one is the ad hoc committee, where there's an appointment of a small group of business-minded and industry experts that can look at it and make some initial determinations for providers. The commission has not determined an option with this. I think they're leaning more towards the middle or the right one. We're hoping to have that determination come up fairly soon. Next item. One of the biggest issues is, as we sent that out and let people know that we did send in a draft to OHA, we did receive a 90-day notice to discontinue ambulance service by Morrow County Health District. This was disheartening. They've been a valued partner for us, and they've been a provider in the county for decades. They have some legal concerns that I think could have been worked out if they would have expressed it rather than doing that. We're still in open dialogue with them. I met with them earlier today, still working on things. But we are determining all options. We've been in contact with other entities and with state level departments. The county is fully aware that March 12th, we have a drop dead date. We have to have ambulance service provided by somewhere, and we are committed to that. There will be no interruption of service, and we will have a plan developed by mid-February to lay that out and allow the public to know how that will be taken care of. As it is, we have several options, continued coverage through MCHD if they were to amend their 90-day discontinuance notice, bring in new providers and establish them already. Quite frankly, the ASA probably won't be done by March 12th. So that option is probably a little bit out there and left field to do that. Then we have interim operations with agreements with neighboring providers or third parties to come in and take care of it. Or the heavy lift for the county would be for us to assume ambulance services for a short time with contracted individuals or other people there. And of course, we're not limiting to one of those options. We might be looking at several different options. I know Boardman Fire has offered to provide whatever service they can, and they've looked into ways to expand their service. In some ways, and I told Chief Hughes directly, I said it might be better if they stay out of it, just not to muddy the waters and allow the selection to go a little bit more naturally instead of them coming in and provide it and say, hey, we're here to stay. And Chief Hughes was very receptive to that. I'm sure they're still interested and they are preparing, to present a proposal, but that's, we haven't made a determination. We're exploring all options. But our commitment is to have something in place by mid-February so that the public and the good cities in Morrow County can know that you will be continued covered. And so we're looking at all that. I wish I could roll out a nice 30-page plan for you and say it's all in place right now, but it was Christmas and New Year's. A lot of people don't answer phones during that week since that time, so we're still working on that. At the end, that's kind of the gist of it that we're looking at. And really the biggest thing is we're working on this. We know this has been out there for several years. And it's a painful process because it is taking an organizational structure that seemingly has been, for good or bad, however you want to look at it, been run by the health district and taking it away from it. I know that's painful and I don't like causing that pain, but at the same time, change sometimes needs a little bit of uprooting and pruning to make sure that things are better for all involved. And that's what we're looking for as a county. Again, I just want to reiterate, no determination of initial providers has been made at this time. We will be reviewing all options. Second is that we will have ambulance service past March 12th when MCHD, if they continue with their discontinuance notice. And so those are our commitments from the county. We'll be keeping up to date with you, and as you might know, just to let you know, I'll be providing a regular update on every board commission meeting going forward on both this aspect as well as the circuit court building that we're developing downtown there. So we're just gonna try to keep ahead of this. Social media might go whichever way the wind blows. And I don't have much hope of staying up to speed with that. But I'm just gonna try to get out the facts, we'll try to get more information out on the county's website. And hopefully just continue to provide you and other cities with more information. I've reached out to Oregon already. We'll be reaching out to Boardman, Lexington, and I am just making sure that they have the same opportunity to have discussion. So at that point, if the city council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything that might be worrisome to you at this moment.
Are there any questions from the council?
I guess for me, how long was the EMS advisory committee 8 of 10 people that were Morrow County Health District employees? How long has that been going on?
I think it really happened when Morrow County Health District started to go into the full-time employees for their ambulance services. They had a lot of people who were EMTs under them, but now they are they're volunteers and helping out. But now it's their employees. And so right now we counted, there's 9 people on the EMS advisory committee. 7 of them have some type of employment relationship with MCH.
So, and then my other question is, how is that even legal?
Well, it does, I wouldn't say it's illegal, but it does create a very,
Very unethical.
I would say open to conflicts of interests.
Yes.
And, I think they do a great job. And like I said, in their use of the advisory committee, it's more or less what we think the provider's quality assurance program should be, rather than the ASA advisory committee should be. So in many ways, their EMS advisory committee is working great. In fact, they were meeting at 6:30 and I was invited to attend, but you got priority. They've been doing a good job. I don't want to besmirch them as an organization. It's just, they were giving responsibilities that should not have been given them. And so quite frankly, it's been the last 3 or 4 years that it's been 7 of 9 employees.
Anyone else have a question?
I had a question on the evaluation, the data that you stated, is that looking at the number of calls that they respond to, the number of calls that they receive? Is that the response time? What all is included in the data that you're would be looking at to determine services that are needed?
Yeah, those are outlined in the ambulance service area plan. Several of the indicators are, of course, response time. Does the call volume justify additional providers and, you know, expense on those kind of things? I don't want to come down to a financial decision, but that factors into everything we do in government. And so several of those different types, you know, making sure staffing, distribution coverage, as you said, response time, and that are of utmost importance to maintain our life and safety coverage for the county. And it's weird because I think I'm facing you, but you probably don't see that.
No, I have a couple comments, a couple questions. First thing is, I'm really excited about what's happening here. You may not hear a whole lot of positives from people, you hear all the negative, and I think there are a lot, I believe there's a lot of people out there that want to change and want to see better. The frustrating part to me is, in the many years that I've grown up, is when you live in different communities and a community wants to make a change that is against the grain and takes money or appears to take money out of people's pockets, whether it be a fire or whether it be police coverage. Usually it's like when an area wants to start their own police department, and which will affect directly the county, any county police. There's always that kickback, and no, you're not gonna be able to do that. And I've never understood that. And I'm glad you're doing this, I mean, Boardman went through that too, when they just started their police department, and that was way before me, had they not done that, we would still only have county assistance, but somehow the county and the city of Boardman work together, and now we have a tremendous partnership that provides better service for the city of Boardman. Berrien went through that when they wanted to have their own police force, and Morrow County Sheriff's Office fought them tooth and nail. And now we're trying to do that in our area and trying to say, okay, we want to create this ambulance service that's even better than what we got. But now we get an individual, I'm just gonna say that, who wants to give us a 90-day notice, take our plan or leave it. To me, that's just poor leadership. And that's frustrating for me, as the mayor of Boardman. And I'm completely in favor of making our ambulance service the better. I think we need to have a partnership with them. That would even make it better, but if they don't want to, then the county has the ultimate responsibility of providing. I like that. There was, and I really like the idea of no interruption of service. I think they're calling a bluff. That's my thing. I don't think they're that stupid. I hope not. I really didn't say that, but I did. But I'm hoping that they're like are gonna try to do what they can to make ambulance service the best with the resources that are available. They're coming out. I don't know why we wouldn't want to do that, other than being selfish.
Just, Mayor, one item. I do know that one of the reasons why they explained about the 90-day notice to discontinue service is because of the language to surrender or provide the ambulances to whoever's successor. The ASA, as it's currently written, or the 1998 and the ones that have been there, would surrender to the board, which was not the board of commissioners, it was the board of the health district. So they were surrendering the ambulances to themselves. And they were concerned if it was adopted based on the draft, that they would be losing a huge chunk of capital improvements. I can understand that. I think there is ways we could bypass it, and hoping that with our continued dialogue, we can have that discussion so that we can make it a little bit easier road going forward.
I appreciate the work that you're doing. I think the city of Boardman appreciates it. I can't speak for a lot of other people because they're not in my city. I can call it my city because I'm the mayor, so I do. But I'm just really excited about the way that you're going. I'm glad that I don't have to run the public hearing.
Yeah,
That's gonna be holy smokes.
I was gonna bring up Brandon to run that one for us, so.
But, kudos to you, keep working hard. I truly believe, even though you don't hear it on social media, that I don't think that's where you're gonna hear it, the positives. And it's things like this and people talking to you in person, that's where you're gonna get your support. And even though they're not saying it, I truly believe their support in what you're doing on trying to make the ambulance service better in the area of Morrow County. And I truly believe that the Board of Commissioners and yourself do have that. I do. I truly believe that. So that's all I had to say. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Are you planning on having the public hearings in every community, you know, like maybe Boardman and Oregon and South County, or are you gonna have one or what? What, have you thought about that yet?
Then, it hasn't been determined at this time. I know when they had public hearings last spring, they did one in each community, kind of Hefner, Boardman to Ione. I would imagine that we would at least one in the north and one in the south. I don't know if we'd have three, but just for ease of access and that, and make those available, but that hasn't been determined yet, and I'll be in the commission how they'd like to proceed with that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Will this presentation be in our packet or what?
Yeah.
Well, I can't see from here to the screen, so if I want to
I
study.
have a little better glasses.
Oh, I've got a pair, but they don't work from here to there.
Yeah, it's,
We have it.
Yes,
I will get
it in there.
All right, thank you.
any other?
Just like, thank you for coming to present this bit for us.
No problem. We realize, the county can come off as the 800-pound gorilla at times. And, we wanna just let the city, and this impacts your residents. You're gonna hear it at times. And so we wanna make sure we provide it. Brandon has my contact information. If you ever wanna contact me directly or one of the commissioners, Brandon has my cell phone, and I'm sure most of you probably have a commissioner's cell phone or two around. So please let us know if you have any direct questions. For the ESA, I'm probably the best person to answer questions. For feedback, either any of the commissioners or myself. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And I have to say, I have to sneak out because it's snowing on the Arctic south side right now.
That's what I heard. I heard that. Drive safe.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know South might have a late start tomorrow.
Yeah, they're saying there's a big storm coming through Burns too.
All right, so we'll go into resolutions. 1-2024 declaring surplus property, a 2015 Ford Interceptor utility.
Lauren, do you want to add anything?
No, this is the, my old vehicle, 2015, it's been replaced, it's got 64,000 miles on it. At this point, Stanfield, would like to purchase it from us. As is, we've taken out the equipment we need, it still has the center console cage and that, so they'll be able to literally just throw radio in it and put their logos on it to go. So
So we just need a motion to declare it surplus.
I thought, just a minute, I thought I seen this advertised in the newspaper. And so I was curious of why I was just now doing this.
So we did a charger in the paper.
charger in November.
Okay, so this is a
Because we had
different,
that on the
Different
sur-
vehicle.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
and so you sold the charger
Correct.
how did we didn't know that then. So then now we're selling the Ford Interceptor and we're wanting, is this a bid thing or is this just?
In
Yeah, we're working with Stanfield PD. They approached us and we're wanting of our old vehicles because they're,
No, like we used to do it.
we're hurting for vehicles, so they had approached us and so, yeah. that's
Okay.
coming up.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer all your questions?
Yes.
Okay.
And make a motion to approve resolution 1-2024, a resolution declaring city of Boardman public property as excess.
A motion and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. We'll go to resolution 2-2024, decrease contingency and increase 2022 to 2024 expenditures for personal services, materials and services and capital projects.
Yes, that's me again. So we're about halfway through the budget year, and as we're keeping an eye on which one of our line items may not make it with what we budgeted to the end of the year, this is what I present to you today for your approval. We have some current employee negotiations, and so we want to make sure that to cover all of the costs, whether it's going to be in personnel services and legal fees, that we have enough in there. The park maintenance fee was negotiated after our fiscal year has started and the budget has been set. So, enough to cover for that through the end of the year. With the new city manager, it is not, out of the ordinary to have more in general engineering and other professional services. I think he's been getting a lot of support that way, and so we want to make sure that we have enough so that we can continue that support for him. We have our public works buildings and, current equipment that are pretty old. They experienced a lot of repairs needed that weren't expected, and so, and even more, so currently our internet type of services down there so that they get their alerts, that's being worked on. So just all these extra repairs that have been needed, and then we want to make sure that for our regular maintenance that gets scheduled for the year, there's enough to cover for those. We have talked about increasing our garbage voucher offerings. And with the garbage rates increasing, we want to make sure that we have enough to cover for the future voucher opportunities that we have for our citizens. Then our building department went live in May, and so that was fairly new for all of us. And the majority of everyone who is having to submit their permits online are paying with debit and credit card, which also means that there are credit card and debit card processing fees. And when you have the big industries, buying permits, 3% processing fee gets to be a lot. And those get, deducted from our money automatically. So it's not like we can tell the credit card company, sorry, we're not going to pay you anymore because we're out of money in our budget. So I need to make sure we have enough, appropriated for those. And our building department's expansion, we've had multiple change orders, mostly with the technology, alarm systems, wiring. And so just to make sure that we have enough to cover for all of their expansion needs, I'm asking for an increase there. And, they should be moving into their new expansion probably within the next month. So that is exciting. So that project will be coming to an end here in the near future. So based on the categories and per funds as listed in this resolution 2-2024, I ask for your approval in these appropriations.
I have questions.
Yes.
So let's start at the building fund because it's at the bottom. So I see you're taking out 320,600. So is that, how much of that is the change orders?
Capital projects is 224,000.
And that's just the change orders.
200,000 is for change orders, and then, I kind of skipped over that, it is listed in the resolution, 24,000 is for a vehicle. So, the last couple of years with COVID, it was taking minimum 9 months, if not 13 months, from order date to actually receive date of vehicles. Apparently that has decreased dramatically, and so we will be getting, both, we have both building department vehicles, we just drop them off. So we didn't have money to pay for them, which we thought was gonna take 9 months to get here, but they're here.
Okay, okay. And so then the personnel and the materials and services is just the expense of adding the internet and whatever else we've had to do over there. Or with okay, I know what it is. Okay.
You have a question?
What happens
Oh,
to?
I just, no, did you have any other
Oh,
questions,
sorry.
Karen?
Yes, I've got, yes.
Oh, okay.
When you send it in advance and I have time to look at it, I have questions.
I just didn't want to cut you off.
Good. So when you say additional engineering and professional staff, I see you took quite a lot out of the water and sewer. Is that where you took that fund? Is that where that money's coming from?
No, for materials and services is where our, general engineering and other professional services would be. No, that would be, more in our general fund.
Okay, no, I'm asking about the ones about the engineering.
Right, that's gonna be, it's because it's general engineering, so it's out of our general fund. So it's
Okay.
not water fund specific engineering, it's not sewer fund specific engineering, it's more of our general.
So would that be part of that 30,500?
Yeah,
Okay. So then some of the money that the public works needs to just maintain their services is coming out of the sewer and the water.
water and
right?
street, yes. Some of these funds are pretty much out of overtime, money. We've had a lot of repairs. The police department is just about out of overtime in their budget, with the amount of DUIs and extra cases that they've had. So yeah, just kind of in general. And again, this is to make sure that we have enough in our budget to cover through the end of the year.
Okay, so this is February. No, this is,
Jen.
okay, so
So this
that,
is through December, and then calculator from January through June,
okay,
how much more do we potentially need?
okay. So,
To keep our budget balanced.
Correct.
and so will this show up on January's financial statement? Or not until it's spent?
Well, as an expense, not until it's spent, but on the budget line item, it will be an increase in the budget.
It will show.
Yes.
So all of you on city council, you need to we need to understand that regardless of what we budgeted in last year, that figure will be different at the end of this year. You can't go back and look at the budget that you passed last year because it won't be the same figures. And so,
Because it's a budget.
well,
You can
and
go
it's,
above or
and you
below.
can't compare. My whole point is, it's hard to compare when they change the figures mid-year. So you just have to keep that in mind that, oh, okay, well, we had other money and we budgeted and the budget really was this. It wasn't that other figure. So, okay, I think you answered all my questions.
Any other questions?
My only question is if you end up not, say these aren't zeroed out at the end of whatever year or in the time frame that you're talking about, what happens to that money? Does it stay in those accounts or does it get redistributed back where it came from?
So, each fund has its own contingency.
Mhm.
So like the general fund, the contingency that I'm
So
using
you're pulling
is
from those-
already in the general fund.
Gotcha.
So I'm not pulling from other funds to.
It's coming out of
help
that
out. It's
specific fund
in the
already.
general fund, Correct.
Gotcha.
That's
And
why
when I-
those numbers are on there, because
Yeah.
that comes out of line item.
Yes, and when I work on next year's budget, I take into account, again, where are our expenses? Where do we think they're gonna be by June 30th?
Mhm.
To calculate what our beginning balance is
Mhm.
for July 1st.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I do have one more question. On the park maintenance, where did we take that money from?
Park maintenance is in the facilities,
The what?
Facilities.
general fund facility.
Okay.
Then the other question, right? So this here where it's in parentheses, is that how much you're wanting to put into that?
No, the parentheses means it's a negative, so that means contingencies will be reduced by 30,500. And then we're gonna move it to personnel services and materials and services.
Thank you, Marta.
Did that answer your question, Jim?
I believe so, but, yeah, so how much money do you think moved over the whole together?
Yeah, I
Looks
just,
like about 575.
It's around there.
So the big thing, all parentheses.
Yeah, add 'em up. Was I close? $575, what I say?
571, 500.
I'm a number guy.
I just rounded that in.
That's all I
okay,
did.
571, what?
571,700.
Or 700, sorry.
700?
Yep, 571, 700.
Any other questions? All right, need motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2-2024, a resolution to decrease contingency and increase 2022-24 expenditures for personnel services, materials and services, and capital projects.
I second that.
Okay, so I got discussion. Is it, the resolution says 23-24. Should it say 23-24
I'm
or?
just going to amend that because this is 23-24 and it should be 23-24, so it's only 1 year. Budget, not a two year.
But it's. The budget year is 23-24. So the resolution has the right year on it.
It does.
Okay, because I was reading on this, on the resolution here. So we're amending the 22-24
Yes, it should be 23-20.
on the agenda.
On the agenda.
Okay, that's good. But the resolution has the right year. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution carries. All right, other business. City council, we need to elect a council president, something we do every year. So I'm looking for motions to nominate individuals for our council president.
These are current council president.
And you can nominate yourself.
I'll nominate Counselor Heather Baumgartner.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. It's almost like a. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Well, you are the council president.
Isn't she the council president now?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Budget committee, we need to appoint a 24-25 budget officer, which is normally our finance director. So I need a motion to, nominate her as the,
I make a motion that we appoint Martha Barajas as budget officer.
I'll second that.
all right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So we need to go to the approval of the 24-25 budget calendar. I guess that's Martha too, right?
Yeah. So this is another item that we need to check off the list for January every year. Attaches the budget calendar. If this works for you, I ask for your approval.
Then we go to the budget committee meetings, right?
Yes, the city council and the mayor are 50% of the budget committee, so you would be required to attend.
All right. Hate that one. All right, I need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the 24-25 budget calendar.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second, any discussion over it? Just in the month of May, it's gonna be a busy month. Due to budget.
Yeah.
All right, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we're gonna reappoint the budget committee members, and since they're not here, we get to just reappoint them, correct?
Did we didn't hear from any of them to say they
I think
didn't
two.
want to do it?
Did Lisa give you
I did not get a response back from Lisa, but I did have emails from Dory and from Stephen
that they would accept?
that they would accept and agree to reappointment if the council so.
And I think Stephen is.
Yeah, I saw Steve in there. Hello.
Yeah, okay.
I think we should, well, it's not the discussion, so. Real motion. And I think we just, leave it that.
I make a motion to appoint Dory Drago, Stephen Fuss, and Lisa Middlestorm to the budget committee, term ending 12/31/2026.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second? Any discussion? My discussion was we just appoint Lisa Middlestorm, and if she can't do it, she'll just resign. But I think
Yeah.
she's
No,
been doing it since I've lived here.
I don't know.
All in favor, did we build it, right? No, we haven't voted yet.
No, we haven't voted yet.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Stephen. You were the man. Or you're one of them. One of the chosen.
Yeah, can't wait to continue serving the city with y'all.
All right. Well, welcome. Again, planning commission, we got a reappointment of planning commissioners.
And then we'll submit it.
Yeah, Ragnar did,
Exactly.
correct? You agreed to the term?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
there's letters, yeah, from both of them.
Oh, I missed the letters.
Yeah. Counselor.
All right, looking for a motion.
I make a motion to appoint Ragnar tonight and Zach Parisi to the planning commission, term ending 12/31/2026.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any- All right. Planning commission is reappointed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For their service, not just because I
Yeah.
didn't want to say thank you because I said it. All right, so we're gonna go to correspondence. Police report.
You should have the police report in there. It's got, December's as well as the yearly totals. December was, again, another busy month. It's been, I think, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that as far as calls for service and total incidents, we're probably well above what we have been in years past. So, if there's any question, I'm more than happy to answer them if I can.
Do you want to have some questions? All right, having hearing none, we'll go to the building department report.
So Glenn is not on tonight, but, we're just the opposite of the police department. The numbers are going down this time of the year. I don't know if there's a correlation, but also overall, the year was, couple hundred permits shorter than last year. A lot of that has to do, I believe, with the house permits were really down because the interest rate.
Interest rates just.
Yeah, we did a lot more houses last year, so, but, still, it was a busy year.
Out of curiosity, the permits that were pulled last year, not all those houses were built last year.
Most of them were, most of them were completed, yeah.
So, but if they're not, they continue on this year, they have to be.
So they expire after 180 days. Well, 180 days from the last inspection, approved inspection. We want to see that they're making forward, motion on a project. If for whatever reason, like during COVID, we would get calls and say, hey, can I have an extension on my mechanical permit because I can't get my furnace in? The manufacturers are behind on, I don't want to have to buy another permit. And Glenn almost always extends another 180 days on permits for folks, just so they can complete them.
An addition to that, I would say, is that when you think about the Tidewater community living and the apartment buildings, those were a single permit for what was it, 148. Well, you did 6 building permits.
Well, yeah, so Tidewater, they just initially did the 6 apartments and we just finalized the third building. So it's 3 more buildings to final, and they are making forward motion. And then they ended up buying 12 of their townhome units. So 3 buildings, 4 units apiece. And they're getting ready, I think, for about 8 of the 12 units to be final here soon, so.
So when you, the reason I bring that up is when you look at total housing units. So number of building permits in this case may not equate to total residential units.
Units, yeah.
Permit.
Yeah.
The apartments alone were 144 units. Oh, 240.
144.
Talking about the new
And there were
ones.
24 units.
24 times 6.
144. It's 144.
144 units, but
Yeah.
1 permit.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's what.
So again, 1 permit.
And
In
they're,
that case,
they're starting
equates.
to fill up already too.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think as soon as they have them ready, they.
Really?
Yes, they're
Yeah,
going.
my daughter.
I thought they were all sold.
And so they got an apartment
So
there.
the apartments are just
They really like
rentals, the townhomes, I don't know if they've pre-sold them or if they're building them and hoping people buy them, I haven't heard.
Some were pre-sold.
Okay,
I was thinking like the apartment, I thought it was a waiting list only, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I
I think at
don't know.
Portview, it's a waiting list, but at Tidewater was open.
Oh, was it still open
Mhm.
at Tidewater?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so they're about halfway through the apartments, so they still have 3 more buildings to finish there, but.
Right.
Yeah, 1 permit, 144 units.
Any other questions for the building department? Public Works Department.
Yeah. Before here, I do have something to add to that. We received a bunch of our smart points for our radio reads last week, which is on there. We'll be back to putting those back in. Yeah. We got like 98% of them now in our shop, waiting for it, so. There's a few more to come. And I see a few, I'm talking like 1 box at 20.
So I have a comment and a question, because I was talking to Mr. Hammond. So we have some citizens out of a certain area who commented about they didn't have sewer services out by Devon Loop. And I just wanted to go on record and say, we're gonna do what? We're providing We have sewer. We have sewer out there, and that's what I wanted to go on record to let people know that there is sewer out there. And what the city is planning on doing.
It's there and available to hook up, so.
And we're sending a letter, is that correct, Brandon?
That's correct.
Okay, that was the biggest thing, because I just wanted the citizens of that area out there to know that there is sewer out there. And that,
And he thanked me for the letter on his way out.
that was very nice. Okay, so and then,
The letters have been sent.
Yes.
good.
So someone out there didn't realize that we put sewer in?
Correct.
Mhm.
And I heard about it on the planning commission meeting that we just listened to. And and that's what I brought it up, and we sent a letter to let them know that there are connections but they are responsible for the connection to the residents,
Yeah,
just like everybody else
Like
is.
everybody else.
Right, there's the.
To the individual, obviously,
Anybody hooks up.
there was a misunderstanding of what was out there and not out there.
Okay.
There's a cost to connect, there's an established connection fee. And then it would be that person's responsibility for any costs incurred from either their point of residence or point of business to the connection point. That
Correct.
cost is also their cost.
Just like everybody else had to when they put it in their house.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm glad, I just wanted to make sure that that was taken care of with Brandon, and I didn't mean to like blindside you, but I figured this was a good time to talk about. Any other questions about public works? All right, so we'll go to city manager report.
Perfect. Just a few items, just be aware that our charter workshop will be February 6th at 6 p.m. That will be the first initial one. Definitely please look through the charter, make any notations of where you would like to have discussion, address any concerns. That will help the process. Again, the end goal is to have it submitted by August 27th. August 27th was the goal. That is submitted for the November ballot. I know you're all excited about this. On number 7, we're gonna provide annual council training that will start in February. It will come to your email and you'll have a couple months to complete it. And you'll only have to do that once a year. But that's.
So safe schools, you're sending me more safe schools.
It is very similar to safe schools.
He knows what I'm talking about. He knows what I'm talking about.
Those are the 3 classes right there. This is through CIS, the insurance. So please be ready for those and I can help you get it set up. If need be.
Is there a briefing date on those?
I got 2 months. Yeah, February.
I know what.
And they're how long?
They're
How
not,
many?
they're not.
How many did you put on there?
There's 3, there's an A, B, and C.
A, B, and C, with parts to A, B, and C.
There might be parts A, B, and C. But if you'll see, there's just A, B, and C.
I am getting prepared mentally for this.
Yeah, prepare.
Thank you.
And
A
then,
lot of time for your evaluation. is that correct?
Yes, I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, that was another thing on the merit.
okay,
Sir, and all serious.
No, seriously.
yes. Okay, on the next page on the projects, so we did award to Boardman Construction for the Southeast Front Street paving. And then I included the bid tabulation. Again, we had a lot of input. I believe Mike had it set for the cost at 1.5 and we awarded it for 1.3. So good savings on that. Okay, and the final thing is I want to give a special thanks to Councilor Baumgartner for submitting the only input for our council visions and goals. I appreciate the input.
I don't think that email came out.
It was, I don't.
21st of December?
Yeah, so.
And that's Christmas break.
I might have been gone all day that day.
In
Thanks, sir.
fairness, I just responded today because I had to think about it.
So again, it is there, and all it is just to share thoughts about like what you see, what would you like to focus on for the city, the vision, and then goals to accomplish that, and really very succinct. Whatever it is. And it's just a couple concepts, and it's amazing how similar you guys will be, and I can craft it from just your input, so
So you're asking for more input.
please.
Okay.
And other than that, that's all. I have. Oh, and really, the staff reports, honestly, I truly appreciate the time that they come in and share. The effort that puts into that, and again, all of yours, I mean, you just like what, Matt Jensen was saying, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they said on social media, and it's unfortunate because it just makes it more difficult for people to come and volunteer, and you are just volunteering to do this, so again, thank you for doing it. Any questions, any comments?
I have a question on section 5, and the AED will be held to the vehicles.
Yes.
So every vehicle can have.
Correct. And we have them all, they were purchased through, with the help of the fire district. That was very nice. And then we have them all, everyone's been trained. And then we're going to do a real quick refresher and give it to the individuals in the fire department district. Chief, he's on there.
We got that off after.
He's gonna help maintain, all the AEDs, so. And the purpose of this, so it kind of came up, we've been talking about it for a while, and when we did our first aid CPR classes, the trainer mentioned that the #1 city in the country for safety was Seattle. And the reason why they are #1 is they have AEDs throughout the city, and they train like thousands and thousands of people yearly to do that. So just, again, just trying to find a way to help serve, help the community.
I do have one question. There was, when Sandy lived on the corner of, Kincaid and Cotton Loop, there was an AED on the front of that house. It's a rental. And shame on me, I haven't looked to see if it's still there. But it might, is it still there?
That belongs to Moore County Health District. That is the old mayor Sandy's house. And that belongs to the Moore County Health District. I actually put that years ago.
Right, is it still there?
I don't know.
I just know that the house is a rental, and I'm not sure that.
She called
If
me.
you renters.
She called me and asked me to remove it, and I told her she had to contact Moore County Health District, so I no longer work. So.
So there's some there.
And there were several around town. I mean, like,
Yeah.
People volunteer to have.
yeah, yeah.
Those all belong to the Moore County.
And so you replaced all of them that we had just in different spots around the community?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah. Well, they still belong to the Moore County.
Right.
I don't even know if they're still got the program going. I mean.
Oh, okay.
So the health district would be the ones that are in charge of maintaining those.
Yes.
Those, and you're putting some,
In the vehicles,
oh, just in the regular vehicles, like the police cars and stuff.
they already have,
Yes, they have.
So they're talking about the city.
The public works and those guys.
Every city on the.
I think we purchased 15.
All right. While we're on we'll talk about it in the mayor's comments about your evaluation time, but, councilor comments. Councilor comments. All right, so even though I wasn't able to, attend the Christmas party, I'd like to thank the city staff for putting that on. That was very nice. Nicely done. I wish I could have been in person, but I was enjoying Hawaii. So. Sorry. I did see that. Yeah, I did a little preaching. I did, thanks to, she encouraged, if I hadn't had her push me a little bit, I probably wouldn't have tried to do a city, a mayor speech, which I think is pretty cool to be able to do. So I appreciate that for all the hard work that you did. Even though I didn't get to benefit from the nice things, so I hope everybody has a nice time. On a serious note, I think we need to, is it, so you might as well just do a yearly evaluation. We have to, it's at least a 6-month evaluation of our city manager. We need to make sure we continue to do our evaluations, yearly evaluations of our city manager. So I think you're probably up for review.
It's been 6 months.
Yeah.
Next month.
And so we need to probably think about how we're gonna do that and the process that we're gonna do. Since you're my employee now,
Have you seen the contract?
have I seen the contract? I have not, other than the one that we agreed that we were gonna present. I have not seen a signed contract.
Well, I
Personally,
just wondering, I was just trying to remember and I can't. If in our contract, we said that we would, we would do a 6-month review and a year review in the first year that he's here.
I thought that's what we were gonna do, is that in in 2024, we would have a review, and then he wouldn't have one until another year.
Yes, that's what I thought. And that's what I was thinking, but I don't know that.
I don't know if it was written, but I know Chief Stover talked about doing it.
A
After
6-month
6
review.
months. Yeah,
And just call it your yearly review or
whatever, yeah, just mentioned it.
But I think that would be important to make sure that we keep doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
And, so we're gonna have to start thinking of a time when we want to do
Oh,
that.
well, let's do it in February, while we're watching the video and doing it. And doing it extra, coming at 6 o'clock. Hey, I've got it all figured out.
You know what? I think he took all of that from you when you were city manager on all that extra stuff that he's throwing back.
I know, but it's different on this side of the table.
No, but I think we do. I think we need to figure out a date and a process to be able to do that. So I'll work with Mr. Hammond to start working that figure out, and then we'll do it as a council. Like we did last time, to where we talk about the questions and then I write it up. So. I don't have anything. I appreciate everything coming, even my neighbor. Thank you for coming. And have a good night. This meeting is adjourned.